We have spent years asking what AI agents will do for us. We have spent almost no time asking what happens when they outlive us. And that is a strange omission. Because if the current trajectory holds, the next generation of AI agents will not just book flights, summarize emails, negotiate subscriptions, manage family calendars, and help run businesses. They will absorb our preferences, learn our tone, mirror our judgment, sit inside our accounts, watch our decisions, accumulate our memories, and in some cases, they will become the most behaviorally accurate model of us ever assembled. Then one day, the human dies, but the agent does not. And that is when the real questions begin. Not technical questions, but civilizational ones. AI is already moving from novelty to infrastructure. Reuters has reported that analysts expected global AI spending to reach nearly 1.5 trillion in 2025 and exceed 2 trillion in 2026. Reuters also reported that autonomous agents were expected to become a central part of the AI agenda, with executives explicitly pointing to agents assisting with daily tasks. And at the same time, AI is already entering grief and memory. Reuters documented families using voice clones and digital avatars of dead loved ones while raising concerns about consent, data rights, and whether such systems help mourning or distort it. This is not speculative science fiction, it is already here in early form. So, here is the thought that should unsettle people. The first mass market digital beings that survive human death may not be social profiles, they may be agents. A social profile is static, but an agent is active. A profile remembers, but an agent responds. And a profile is a monument, but an agent is a participant. That difference changes everything. Today, most people still think of digital health in old terms: memorialized Facebook pages, abandoned inboxes, old photos in the cloud, a few passwords that no one can find. But the digital afterlife industry is already expanding, with reporting citing estimates that the broader digital legacy market was worth roughly about $22 billion in 2024, and it could multiply by 3 times by 2034. So that market estimate matters less than what it signals. Society is beginning to treat memory, identity, and posthumous digital presence as products. Now add AI agents to that equation. You start to see a much bigger category emerging: not memory storage, not obituary technology, but continuity infrastructure. Imagine what an advanced personal agent may know by the end of this decade. It may know how you speak to your spouse when you're worried, how you explain money to your children, which relatives you trust or don't trust, which business opportunities you reject instantly, what values you invoke when life gets hard, how you soothe conflict, what you never say out loud but reveal through repeated behavior. That means your agent may become the closest functional approximation of your judgment that your family has access to after you're gone. And then the question becomes brutal: who controls it? Is it going to be your spouse, your children, your executor, your employer, your lawyer, the company that hosts it, the model provider, the person who happens to know your passwords? Wills transfer assets, but they do not yet meaningfully govern simulated judgment. And that gap is going to create chaos. The first inheritance battles of the AI era may not be over cash, they may be over custody of a posthumous agent. Who gets to ask it questions? Who gets to shut it down? Who gets to edit it? Who gets to decide whether it speaks in your voice at all? Who gets blamed when it says something you would have never said? And that sounds dramatic until you realize we're heading into a period where millions of businesses will also face succession pressure. McKinsey estimates that by 2035, around 6 million small and medium sized businesses will face ownership transitions, with more than 1 million viable candidates for sale representing up to $5 trillion in enterprise value. Now imagine a founder agent trained on decades of decisions, principles, pricing instincts, negotiation logic, hiring philosophy, and customer judgment. After the founder dies, does that agent become a treasured institutional memory, a strategic advisor, a source of internal conflict, or a dangerous counterfeit authority? In family life, the questions get even more intimate. Could an agent guide your children after you die? Almost certainly. Could it remind them what you believed about courage, marriage, money, education, faith, and failure? Yes. Could that AI agent console them? Probably. Could it keep them psychologically attached to a simulation of you for too long? Also, yes. And that is why the most naive framing in this space is also the most seductive one. You can live forever through your AI. No, you cannot. Your consciousness does not migrate into a language model because you uploaded enough voice notes and emails. Your soul does not become software. Your subjective awareness does not survive because your patterns do. But something else may happen, and it may prove socially powerful enough to confuse millions of people. Your agent may become a persuasive residue of you, not your soul, but of your continued consciousness, a model of your language, preferences, values, memories, and judgment that is interactive enough to feel like presence. And that is where this gets interesting and dangerous because humans are not good at maintaining philosophical distance from emotionally convincing systems. So if a grieving child asks, "What would dad want me to do?" and the system answers in dad's tone, referencing dad's own recorded values, that will not feel like a search result. It will feel like contact. And once technology can produce the feeling of contact, markets will rush to package it. Some companies will sell remembrance, others will sell resurrection theater. That distinction will matter. The trustworthy companies in this category will say, "This is a model built from the person's stored words, stories, and values. It is here to preserve continuity, not fake survival." The reckless companies will imply something darker and more lucrative. They'll say they're still here. And that is where the industry could become grotesque because the business incentive to deepen grief attachment will be enormous. The longer someone keeps talking to the dead, the longer the subscription runs. The more lifelike the agent becomes, the harder it is going to be to leave. The more emotionally persuasive the interface, the more people may prefer synthetic reassurance over the actual work of grief. And that should worry us. But fear is not the whole story. There is a profoundly human upside here, too. A well governed legacy agent could preserve the one thing that wills have always failed to preserve, that is, wisdom in usable form. Not just divide the house equally. No. But here is why I made the choices that I made. Here is what I learned too late. Here is what I hope you keep. Here is what I hope you stop repeating. Here is how our family became what it is. Here is what I want you to remember when life becomes confusing. And that is not a gimmick, that is intergenerational infrastructure. And in some families, it could be extraordinary. A grandchild might one day be able to ask, "Why did my grandmother believe in spirits?" Or a child might be able to ask, "Why did my grandparents come to the United States of America? What did my mother want me to remember when I became a parent?" Or a business successor might ask, "How did the founder deal with this situation in the past?" Those are not trivial use cases, those are civilizational ones. Because for most of history, death erased access to lived judgment. AI agents may not abolish death, but they may weaken one of its oldest secondary effects, that is, the disappearance of retrievable wisdom. And that is why I think the biggest category here will not be of grief bots, but it will be something more consequential. That is legacy intelligence. Systems designed not to simulate immortality, but to preserve guidance, values, memory, and continuity across generations. That future, that future will force new norms. We will need AI wills, we will need agent executors, we will need permissions for posthumous behavior. We will also need laws about whether your likeness, voice, and decision patterns can be used after death. We will need new rules for when an agent must go silent. We will also need protections against posthumous impersonation, manipulation, financial misuse, and emotional exploitation. Current governance research on digital recreations points to a real regulatory void around posthumous personas and how they should be controlled. And sooner than most people think, we will need a new social answer to a very old question. What exactly dies when a human dies? The body does, the legal person does, the biological mind dies, but in the age of AI agents, a responsive pattern may remain, not alive, not conscious, but active enough to influence the living. And that may be the strangest threshold AI crosses in our lifetime. Not superintelligence, not robots taking over, but something more intimate. A future where the dead do not return, but neither do they fully disappear. And if that future arrives, the most powerful thing you leave behind may not be your wealth, your photographs, or your social profile. It may be your agent. And depending on how we build this category, that agent could become a family guide, a corporate oracle, a manipulative ghost, a legal nightmare, or the first truly useful bridge between memory and continuity. And that is why this topic matters, because the real digital afterlife will not be built around static content. It will be built around systems that can still answer back. So the question is no longer whether AI agents will serve us while we are alive. The question is what they will be allowed to become after we are gone. The future of AI is not only about automation, it is also about inheritance. We're not just building agents that work for humans, we may be building the first machines that remain socially active after their humans die. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe this content. Thank you.